I never imagined the day would come when I'd have to protect myself from my own children. Yet here I was, sitting at the kitchen table, hands trembling, staring at a bank statement that looked like a crime scene. My name on the paper, but not a single cent left in the account that held my life's savings. Every dollar, every careful deposit I'd made from decades of hard work, it was all gone. I'd spent my entire career as an accountant, double-checking numbers and protecting clients' futures, never thinking that my own children would be the ones to betray me. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an oversight. They'd taken what wasn't theirs. My retirement fund, the one thing I'd built to ensure I'd never be a burden on them. I felt like I couldn't breathe, the air heavy with disbelief and a sense of loss that went deeper than money. I'd always believed family came first, that we take care of each other. But as I sat there, the silence pressing down like a weight, I realized something chilling. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who hurt you the most. Before I tell you how it all unfolded, hit that like button, share where you're watching from, and subscribe so you never miss a story like this. Now, let's dive in. My name is Patricia Miller. I'm 69 years old, and I spent my life as an accountant. Methodical, reliable, always the one others leaned on. I'm a grandmother now, fiercely independent, with a heart that's always been too soft when it came to family, until they taught me otherwise. For as long as I can remember, I've been the one everyone turned to. Birthdays, holidays, emergencies. I was there, with a checkbook and an open heart. My son, Eric, always said, "Mom, you're the strongest person I know." My daughter, Marie, would call me her rock. I took pride in that, maybe too much. After my husband, Walter, passed 15 years ago, I poured everything into making sure our kids and grandkids never felt that same loss. I took over every financial detail he'd handled, meticulously balancing accounts, clipping coupons, investing what little I could. It wasn't much, but I made sure there'd be something left, something solid for my own retirement. I scrimped on vacations, bought secondhand clothes, and didn't replace the living room couch, even after it started sagging. I always thought, one day, I'll sit in comfort. But when Eric's business hit a rough patch, I dipped into my savings to help. When Marie and her husband needed a down payment, I dipped in again. It's okay, I told myself. That's what family's for. Still, I made sure to keep a small, carefully guarded account, a rainy day fund, my safety net. I'd worked hard for it, a lifetime of late nights and early mornings at the accounting firm, balancing other people's dreams while putting mine on hold. That money was supposed to be my chance to finally breathe easy, to know that even if the world fell apart, I wouldn't. When I moved into the small condo I'd bought with Walter's life insurance, I thought I was safe. The place was modest. 2 bedrooms, a tiny balcony with enough space for my favorite potted herbs. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Marie and Eric both lived nearby, and the grandkids visited often enough to keep the place lively. I'd host Sunday dinners with my famous pot roast and mashed potatoes, always adding extra butter because that's how Grandpa liked it. The kids would laugh, telling me to slow down, to let them take care of me. "You've done enough, Mom," they'd say. But when I'd hint at that little savings account, how proud I was of building it on my own, the conversation would shift. They'd talk about how expensive college was getting, or how much harder it was to make ends meet these days. I'd nod sympathetically, but I never offered that account. That was mine. Or so I thought. It started with an innocuous brown envelope, no big red warning stamps or urgent labels, just a standard letter from the bank. I thought it was a routine statement. I opened it, expecting to see the small nest egg I'd worked so hard to protect still sitting there like a silent promise. Instead, my eyes widened, the numbers blurring as I read. Account balance, $327.46. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I blinked hard, thinking maybe it was a mistake. Maybe there was a misprint, a computer glitch. But the transaction history told a different story. $15,000 here, $5,000 there. Withdrawals I hadn't made. all labeled with references to transfers I didn't recognize. My hands shook as I flipped through the pages. The dates aligned too perfectly with Eric's recent business struggles. I'd heard him complaining at dinner last month about how the bank wouldn't extend his line of credit. Marie, too, had mentioned wanting to redo her kitchen, how she couldn't wait to host the entire family once it was done. It hit me like a wave of ice water. They hadn't just borrowed a little here and there. They'd systematically drained the account I'd kept hidden for years. The account I'd quietly fed from every paycheck, every tax refund, every birthday check I'd refused to cash. My vision blurred as tears welled up. My breathing quickened. I remembered the times I'd written their tuition checks without question, the birthday parties I'd paid for, the soccer uniforms, the school trips, the rent money when Eric was between jobs. Always with a smile, always with, "Of course, honey, that's what family's for." But this was different. They hadn't even asked. They'd just taken. I stumbled to the kitchen table, sitting down heavily in the chair that creaked under my weight. I grabbed the phone with trembling fingers and dialed Eric's number. He answered on the second ring, voice warm and casual. "Hey, Mom, everything okay?" My mouth opened, but no words came out. Finally, I managed a weak, "Eric, did you touch my retirement account?" A pause, a long pause. I could hear the clinking of dishes, maybe Marie in the background asking something. Then a sigh. "Mom, we needed it. The bank was going to foreclose on the house. We thought you'd understand." My heart cracked right down the middle. "Understand?" I whispered. "It's not like you were going to spend it all, Mom," he said, like he was explaining something trivial. "We just needed a little help. You always said family comes first." My vision went red. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. All those years of sacrifice, every extra shift, every skipped vacation, reduced to a casual, "just needed a little help." He kept talking, his voice calm, almost bored. "We're good for it. Once things pick up, we'll pay it back. But right now, we just need you to understand." I understood, all right. I understood that everything I'd worked for, everything I'd sacrificed, was gone. Just like that. I hung up the phone, my hand trembling. In that moment, something inside me snapped. Not with anger, at least not yet, but with a cold, quiet realization. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a betrayal. A betrayal from the people I'd given everything to. And in that cold, quiet moment, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let it end like this. I tried to sleep that night, but the numbers haunted me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the transaction slips stacked like bricks, each one representing a choice I hadn't made. By dawn, I knew I couldn't pretend this was a mistake. I needed answers. I called Marie first. She was always the one with the bright smile and the sweet words. "Mom, what's up?" she answered, voice chipper like nothing had happened. I hesitated, but the words tumbled out. "Marie, did you take money from my retirement account?" Silence, then a quick inhale. "Mom, we just needed a little help with the kitchen remodel," she finally said, her tone saccharine. "You always said you wanted us to have a nice home." "A kitchen remodel?" I felt my voice tremble. "That money was for my living expenses, my future. You didn't even ask." Marie sighed, the sound dripping with practiced patience. "Oh, Mom, don't be so dramatic. It's not like you're going to be homeless. You have the house, and Eric, he needed help with the business. We're family. We share." I felt the words like a slap. Share. That was my safety net, my independence. My voice was rising now. "I've spent my whole life making sure I wouldn't be a burden, and now—" Marie's voice sharpened. "Burden? Oh, come on. You always made it sound like you'd do anything for us. That's what family does, Mom. We help each other out." I was stunned. I hung up, The phone felt heavy in my hand. My chest was tight, but I wasn't crying. Not yet. I called Eric next. He answered on the first ring. "Hey, Mom. Marie said you called her." His tone was flat, like a bored teenager. "Eric, did you take money from my retirement account?" I asked, my voice a low tremble. He sighed, and I could hear the exhaustion, or was it annoyance, in his voice. "Mom, you have no idea how hard things have been. The business—" "Eric," I interrupted, voice firm. "That money wasn't yours to take." He scoffed. "Oh, come on, Mom. We're family. You've always said family is everything. We're in a tough spot. You've got the house, your pension, your Social Security. We're not talking about all your money, just some of it." "Some of it?" I repeated, my voice a cold whisper. "You drained it, without even asking me." He went silent, then he spoke, slower, his tone defensive. "You're making a big deal out of nothing. We'll pay it back. You wouldn't want your grandkids to go without, would you?" I felt a tear roll down my cheek. My grandkids, they were my world. But I also knew this wasn't about them. This was about my children, my own flesh and blood, who had treated my trust like a personal ATM. "You didn't even ask," I said, voice breaking. Eric's voice hardened. "Well, maybe if you weren't so controlling with your money, we wouldn't have had to do it this way. Maybe if you just trusted us?" That was it. The words sliced through the last thread holding my heart together. I hung up, the line going dead with a finality that felt like a funeral. I sat in the living room, staring at the family photos on the wall. Birthdays, graduations, Christmas mornings. All the times I'd been there for them. All the times I'd said yes. And now, they were telling me I was the one in the wrong. That I was the one who didn't understand family. I realized, with a cold clarity that I'd never known before, that I had let them treat me this way. That my silence had been their permission slip. But that was about to change. That night, I didn't sleep a wink. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my children's faces. The look in Marie's eyes when she told me to get over it, the cold calculation in Eric's voice. I'd never felt so alone, so utterly betrayed. But the longer I stared at the ceiling, the clearer it became. I wasn't helpless. I wasn't going to let them treat me like this. At dawn, I poured myself a cup of black coffee. Strong, no cream, no sugar, and sat at the kitchen table. I spread out every statement, every transaction slip I could find. It was like staring at a battlefield. Each dollar spent was a bullet hole. Each unauthorized withdrawal was a knife in the back. My hands shook, but my mind was steady. I wasn't going to let them win. I called Helen, my old friend from the community center. She was a retired financial advisor, sharp as a tack, and always had my back. "Helen," I said, voice trembling, "I think my kids stole from me." The words felt heavy, but true. I braced for the sympathy, the sigh of pity. But Helen didn't sigh. She didn't soften her tone. She said, "Then let's find out exactly how much they took, and get it back." She came over that afternoon with her laptop and her glasses perched on the end of her nose. Together, we went through every bank statement, every account summary. I showed her the withdrawals, the transfers, the suspicious notes in the margins. Her eyes narrowed as she scrolled. "They've bled you dry," she finally said. "But don't you dare let them think you're weak. You worked hard for this. This is your money. Let's get a lawyer involved." I nodded. I'd never thought I'd have to fight my own kids in court, but here I was. Helen helped me call a lawyer, Mr. Jenkins, a local elder law attorney who'd handled estate disputes for half the neighborhood. I told him everything, the withdrawals, the excuses, the guilt trips. He listened quietly, then said, "Mrs. Sullivan, you've got a solid case for elder financial abuse. We can freeze those accounts and file a claim for restitution." Elder financial abuse. The words hit me like a slap. That's what it was. Abuse. It wasn't just a misunderstanding. It wasn't just family helping each other. It was theft. Plain and simple. And I was done letting them get away with it. For the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of power. I wasn't just a mother anymore. I was a woman who had built her life on hard work and self-respect. And I wasn't going to let them destroy that. I signed the paperwork, hands steady, heart resolute. I'd loved my family with everything I had. My time, my money, my trust. But now, I was going to love myself enough to stand up and say, enough. 2 weeks later, the phone rang on a muggy Wednesday afternoon. I recognized Marie's number immediately. I almost didn't pick up, but a small voice inside me whispered, "Face them. Don't hide." So I answered. "Mom," she said, voice trembling. "We need to talk." I could hear the panic in her words. I didn't ask why. I already knew. The lawyer had frozen the joint accounts. The funds they'd siphoned from my savings were now under investigation. And with their spending habits, I had no doubt they'd hit the wall fast. "Go ahead," I said, my voice calm, steady, a tone I didn't even know I could summon. She hesitated. Then, We can't pay the mortgage. The utilities are months behind. The bank's threatening to foreclose." Her voice cracked then, like a child's. "Eric lost his job. We didn't know this would happen." "Didn't know?" I repeated, more to myself than her. I remembered every dinner I'd cooked, every late-night call to calm her fears, every time I'd handed over cash without a second thought. I'd believed their promises, their reassurances. I'd trusted them, and now they wanted me to fix it. I inhaled deeply, like I'd done during stressful tax seasons at work. Slow, measured, in through the nose, out through the mouth. "Marie," I said, "I know you and Eric spent my money. You didn't ask. You didn't tell me. You just took it." She started to protest, but I cut her off. "No, listen to me. I'm not the fool you think I am. I know what you did, and I know why. You thought I was weak. You thought I'd just forgive and forget, like I always did." Silence on the line. "But you didn't count on me fighting back, did you?" I continued. "You didn't think I'd get a lawyer or protect what's mine? Well, I did. And now you're facing the consequences. The bank's not foreclosing because of me. They're foreclosing because of you." I could hear her breathing, quick and shallow. "Mom, please," she finally whispered. "We're a family. Families help each other. Don't do this to us. Please, we need you." I closed my eyes, feeling the ache in my chest, but I stayed strong. "I loved you more than anything. I would have given you the world, but you stole from me, Marie. You lied to me, and now you're paying the price." A sob. "Please, Mom, we can fix this. We just need a little help. Please, we're your children." The line between love and betrayal felt like a thin thread in that moment. But I remembered every sleepless night I'd had, the way my hands had trembled signing the lawyer's papers, the cold realization that the people I loved most had treated me like an ATM. "I'm sorry, Marie," I said, my voice softer but still firm. "But this is your mess to clean up, not mine. I won't be your safety net anymore. You have to learn that actions have consequences. I've protected what's left of my future, and I'm standing my ground." Silence. Then a soft click. She'd hung up. I stared at the phone for a long time, a mix of grief and strength flooding through me. I'd never imagined I'd have to choose between my children and my own dignity. But now that I had, I knew it was the right decision. Because I wasn't just a mother or a grandmother. I was a woman who had worked too hard for too long to let anyone, even family, steal her worth. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. That evening, I sat by the window, a cup of herbal tea steaming in my hands, watching the last glow of sunset bleed into the horizon. The house was quiet, just the ticking of the old clock on the wall and the occasional hum of the refrigerator. I thought about everything that had happened: the betrayal, the tears, the gut-wrenching realization that the people I'd trusted most had crossed a line I never thought they would. I remembered the day I opened my retirement statement and saw the balance, or rather the lack of it. My hands had trembled so hard I nearly dropped the paper. Years of planning, saving, and sacrificing, gone in a single line of red numbers. That was the day the walls around my heart cracked. But it was also the day I realized I wasn't as helpless as they thought. I'd always believed family was everything. I'd poured love into every meal I cooked, every birthday present I carefully picked out, every late-night phone call to talk someone through a crisis. I'd built my life around making sure everyone else was okay, thinking they'd do the same for me. But they didn't, and that was the hardest lesson to learn. I took a sip of tea, letting the warmth settle deep inside. I thought about Marie's voice on the phone that afternoon, pleading, desperate, so sure I'd step in and rescue them like always. A small part of me had wanted to, but then I remembered the night I'd spent pacing the living room, crying into the darkness, wondering how I could have missed the signs, wondering how I'd let myself be used by my own children. I wasn't going back to that woman. I couldn't. She was gone now. The mother who thought love meant sacrificing everything. I'd learned that boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're fences that keep us safe. And sometimes, the people you love the most are the ones you need the strongest fence against. A gentle knock on the door broke my thoughts. It was my neighbor, Carol, with her fluffy white dog in tow. She'd become my lifeline these past few weeks, checking in on me, sharing jokes over the fence, inviting me over for dinner just to remind me I wasn't alone. "Patricia," she said softly, "you okay?" I smiled, a real smile, and nodded. "Yeah, I am. For the first time in a long time, I'm really okay." She smiled back. "Good. Because you deserve that, you know." After she left, I walked through each room of my house. My house. The walls felt warmer, more welcoming. The old photos on the mantel, the crocheted blankets on the couch, the kitchen I'd painted myself after retirement. They weren't just things. They were pieces of me. And I wasn't going to let anyone, not even my own children, take that away from me. I stood in front of the mirror in the hallway and looked at the woman staring back. I saw strength in her eyes and a softness that hadn't died even in the face of betrayal. I realized I could love my children and still protect myself. I could forgive, but I didn't have to forget. And I didn't have to sacrifice my peace to prove my love. I thought about what I'd tell them if they ever showed up again, asking for help. I'd tell them I wished them well, but I wasn't their bank or their doormat. I was their mother, yes, but I was also a woman who had earned the right to her own life. My journey from trust to betrayal to empowerment had taught me that. And as the night settled in, I felt a quiet strength, not loud or boastful, just a calm certainty. I had chosen peace, and for the first time in my life, I knew it was mine to keep. Before you go, I'd love to know what you think. Have you ever trusted someone, only to have them break that trust? What would you do if your own family took advantage of your kindness and savings? Would you help them if they came back? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's share our stories together. Your experience matters, and it might just inspire someone else to find their own strength. If this story moved you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe for more powerful, true-to-life tales of family, resilience, and strength. Thanks for being here.